Hi there. Today I'm with Paul Oberschneider, a serial entrepreneur and author of the book, Why Sell Tacos in Africa. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thanks
How are you doing?
having me. No, it's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you're a serial entrepreneur. You've built a lot of businesses, five-star hotels, shopping malls and all of that. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you got started and the kind of businesses that you've gravitated towards?
Well, if you've heard the story, it was by accident, really. I mean, there was no business plan behind it initially, and it just happened. I was on Wall Street trading, and in 1987 decided to exit that career.
Now, that was the time when they did a lot of shouting, wasn't it?
Well, I was on the floor doing that. Yeah, I was one of those young guys. You have to be young to do that. And sadly, that's no longer in existence anymore. Technology has completely changed that whole game. So, reinvented myself. 1991, 92, decided to go to Central and Eastern Europe. For those that know my story, it's because that's where my father was from. I was going back to kind of just re-explore my roots. And what was meant to be sort of a 2-week holiday ended up being a 20-year sort of career. How property started was basically I was living in a Soviet-style communal block, writing business plans for people basically at that time and making a little bit of money doing that. And I needed a flat to live in. So I decided to build one for myself because I was living in this rather dingy place. So I was fortunate to find a flat, built it out, and when I saw what a great finished product it was, someone said, well, why don't you rent it to the American Embassy? So I did that. And I thought, well, that was easy. I should do that again.
Good tenants?
Good tenants, great rent back then because there was no accommodation space of that level. So slowly, one by one, we were hitting singles basically. We weren't out to hit home runs. The intention was never to do that. It was to build myself a flat. So that led to building Oberhaus, which was the core business that we kind of verticaled into other things after that. And, over a period of time, we became a very big shopping center developer, hotels, apartments, residential units throughout Central and Eastern Europe. We worked across 6 countries. At the end, and by 2007, 2008, we built a pretty big organization.
Now, you said something very interesting there, which I'd like to pick you up on. Because many people, many entrepreneurs get stuck in, as you say, hitting singles. And find that very difficult to break out of. So what was it that allowed you to break out of that hitting singles and start hitting the home runs?
I wish I could say that it was my uber intelligence, but it's not. It was just out of necessity. And really what happened was I was working in countries where I didn't speak the language at all, which forced me to have to delegate stuff to people all the time. I mean, I could go into a meeting and I wouldn't understand what was going on. So I had to be able to communicate my ideas to people through what I wanted, through a story, get them excited about it, make sure that they understood that, and then they'd go out and execute. So if I was in a country where I spoke my own language, for example, I'd probably want to do everything myself, which would have, as most entrepreneurs do, because they always think they can do it better than the next guy. So they get stuck into doing administrative things and things that they probably shouldn't be doing. By allowing people to do that for me and delegate, I was able to take a kind of a different approach and a different view, and I could sit back and I could make different decisions about things. So it allowed us to grow really fast, faster than we could have thought, but faster than you would have been able to do here if you'd been doing it yourself.
I
think that's really, if you want the honest truth, that's what happened. It was other people that built my business. It wasn't me.
So what in your book you talk about the Why Sell Tacos to Africa. You talk about a lot of rules, if you like, for, I guess this is one of them.
The title itself is a metaphor. It's about.
What does it mean? Yeah.
I mean, it's not about Africa. It's not about selling tacos now. But, well, actually it is. It's about finding uncontested markets and opportunities, for example, in Central and Eastern Europe, back then where the competition was very thin.
Yes.
And that allowed us to do things kind of under the radar for a very long time. You know, looking back, I mean, there were a lot of guys that came into the market with big plans, well-funded, made a big splash, and years later, they were gone. And we were still there because, you know, nobody paid attention to us because we were absolutely so small. We didn't make any noise, and we just kind of inched up, hit those singles. Pretty soon we were hitting doubles, and, you know, and then eventually, you know, at one point we were able to go out and raise a lot of capital. And the other thing that made that happen was, you know, a lot of capital was looking for opportunities in that marketplace, but even though those people in those markets were rather intelligent and knew the local ground, they were on the ground, the communication between capital and what they were actually trying to do was a bit fractured. We had the ability to communicate and act as the sort of the conduit between the capital and the market. And so we were able to do that from Tallinn, Estonia to Warsaw down to Kiev. And, yeah.
But the principles you talk about apply anywhere, and I think you're in the right place at the right time in the 1990s in Eastern Europe. But in any property market, there are always opportunities to be ahead of the curve. A good example here in the UK was the office to resi conversion.
Huge.
If you were in that in 2013 from 2016, no one knew about it.
Yeah, no, it was huge. And it was happening all around very quietly until finally it gained momentum. So you got to look for that market niche. Today, I think maybe it's exit finance. You know, so you've got a lot of developers today that may have started building stuff a year and a half, 2 years ago. And to no fault of their own, the market changed. GDVs fell, sales periods have extended by 17%, and now they're entering practical completion, and they're stuck. They're not even thinking about profit anymore. They're looking at their watch and they're saying, Jesus, you know, what time is it? And so a lot of those developments with basically that don't have the development risk anymore can be reset. The clock can be reset. So there's a bucket of capital now looking at that quite seriously as an opportunity. But for the developer even, you know, with GDVs falling, they can do joint ventures in those markets with people that perhaps are stuck, and they can recreate and restructure, you know.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you up to in real estate now? I understand you are doing a little bit of financing.
Well, we are. So we've been working on something for about 2.5 years. And originally we approached this because we're equity guys. I'm an equity guy. I'm a real estate guy. And, you know, to try to understand the UK market was a bit too slightly, it would take me another 20 years to do that. So I had to sort of flip the model around and do the same thing I did with my institutional partners years ago. And what we do is we look for operating partners in different markets, guys that know their local market, they're good at what they do, but they may not know the financing structure, they may not know their way around the street in terms of raising capital. They know some of the 2 or 3 big names out there that provide funding, but those guys are pretty much tick box lenders, which we're not. You know, we're very bespoke. We're real estate guys. We're willing to take a lot more risk, but we're looking for that operating partner in those local markets. And our product is basically, it's very simple. We provide a very aggressive capital stack. So we're putting out the senior, the mezz, and probably about a third or more of the equity if you look at a traditional stack. And so our returns are really driven not so much on the debt, but by the success of the project.
Yes.
So we're very aligned with the developer. We want the project to succeed. If the project doesn't succeed, we become a low-cost debt financer, you know. So we look at stuff as if we were doing it ourselves. And that gives us the ability to back people that we're comfortable with.
Yes.
So that's our product, basically. It's providing credit So we do take a first charge, obviously. We provide a lot of credit. We provide backup if a developer needs it. And we're looking for that guy that just kind of doesn't know his way around the street.
Yes, yes, yes. So is the developer, of course, is the person that you're lending to.
Yeah.
But you mentioned GDVs are coming under a little bit of a challenge at the moment. Are there...
That's polite.
That is polite. But are there any particular sort of deal opportunities where you see as trouble ahead? And also the other side is, are there particular areas of real estate projects that are going on which you see are plenty of opportunity over the next few years?
Well, I think for us, it's the affordability factor that's really important. I mean, when we underwrite a deal, we look at, sales comps, build comps, investment comps, but really it's what does the market, what can people really afford? What's the affordability? And I think during the liquidity kind of boom that we went through, people kind of forgot about that, and they thought everybody had deep pockets and we're going to buy £1 million homes and apartments forever, and actually it's a third of that. I mean, really, when you look at the regions and you look at what people can actually pay, forget Help to Buy for a moment, then you've got to just kind of readjust your paradigm in terms of what you think you can do. So we love stuff that's like, build 14 to 30 units at a lower end price range in the regions, because we think that's what the market needs. I mean, and whether you have Brexit or not, people still need homes. I mean, there's a backlog of demand that's been building up over the years. You've got, the statistics that tell you that, you need 300,000 homes or whatever over the every year. So we don't think that there's a demand problem. It's really, there's a lot of supply on the market, excuse me. It's just the wrong supply.
Yes, yes, yes. You're talking about the bread and butter. So, 20, £150,000 apartments in Luton, great. 1.5 million place in Kensington, probably not.
Not for us.
Well, not for many people, I think.
There are plenty of lenders that did and do lend on that kind of stuff, but that's not us.
Okay. And I guess because you've built these things yourselves, you have a far more understanding now as a lender, because you've walked in the developer's shoes.
See, well, that's it. We know where the pain points are, and we know what these guys are going through. I mean, we're backing, we like to say, the small s and the small m in the SME acronym. That's our market.
What sort of lot size, just to give people an idea?
Call it, in terms of capital deployed, 2 million up to, say, 15 to 20 on the high side. So, I mean, typically we would look at, we love deals that are about 6.5, 7 GDV.
Well, listen, thanks very much, Paul. I think it's been
a pleasure.
Great insights into the way you think and business and all the rest of it, and some of your thoughts on sort of real estate. And I always say that the people who are putting their own money into investing into other people's deals, they really need to have their nose close to the ground in terms of what's happening. Otherwise, they're going to lose a lot.
Great. Well,
listen, thanks very much, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
And Paul will be coming along to speak at a future Baker Street. And you can see plenty more videos, interviews with people in property on this website. Subscribe, hit the bell icon. It's the only way you're going to keep up to date with what's happening on this site. We post new videos every week. So stay tuned for a lot more. Bye.